Simon Jordan and Chris Eubank Sr. get into a heated argument over the rehydration clause in the contract for Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. And Simon Jordan is wrong. He is totally wrong. And I'm going to break it down in this video so those of you that do not understand what is going on, you can have an understanding. But before we do that, let's have a look at this video clip.
You were very, very robust against the principle of the fight. So let's put aside the argument about economics, about where you are paid or not, right, and move into the consciousness of the fight itself. You were against the entire principle of it. You talked about legalised murder. You talked about your son being boiled down to a weight class, which, by the way, he's fought at since 2018, when he last fought at super middleweight against George Groves. So there was nonsense in that.
Don't say nonsense. You don't know what you're talking. I'll tell you why you don't know what you're talking about, because you don't know boxing.
If he fights a middleweight since 2018, and at the time people said he was too small to fight against George Groves at super middleweight. So he fights at a weight class for 7 years. The only boiled down argument you had, Chris, was when they wanted him at 157. That's your boiled down argument.
I cannot argue with you. You do not know what you're talking about because you do not know boxing.
So he can't fight 160.
I speak from the inside out. You are speaking from the outside in. You don't know what you're talking about. So can
he fight at 160 or not?
Again, the advice I would have given him would not to be fighting at that weight anymore. It is dangerous.
So basically, Simon is saying that since Eubank Jr. had fought at 160 in previous fights, that it was okay for him to take this fight at 160 and also adhere to the rehydration clause. And basically, if he couldn't, then he should not have accepted the contract, which there's a point in that, right? But the thing is, boxers need saving from themselves. And Eubank Sr. is talking from experience. And I think this whole thing, when he talks about it, people don't really take the time to understand where Eubank Sr. is coming from. Of course, he's coming from experience. He's been there, he's done it. He's moved up in weight a few times in his career as well. And he's seen the devastation of boxing in people that he's been around. So Eubank Sr. is coming from a place, number one, being a father, and then number two, having first-hand experience of what happened to boxers when the rules of boxing are not adhered to. So the rules where there's a weight division in boxing for a reason, and boxers are meant to stay in those weight divisions. And even if they're going to move up or they're going to move down, it has to be reasonable. And I don't think that Eubank Sr. thinks that Eubank Jr. is doing the reasonable thing in terms of fighting at 160 and also adhering to a rehydration clause. We all saw that video where Eubank Jr. was cutting weight for the first Conor Benn fight. It was horrendous, right? We saw that. He even got fined by the British Border Control for using ways that he's not meant to use to cut weight. That shows you the difficulty and the strain that it puts on him, right? To lose weight and then to get into a fight where he's dehydrated, get punched in the head all night, and the implications of him going to the hospital and staying in the hospital for a number of days because he was so dehydrated, his face were all puffed up. These are real serious things. And I get it, right? People go, yes, he shouldn't have accepted it in the contract. But these are fighters. Fighters are always going to fight and they're always going to take contracts because the money is good. But this is why the rules of boxing has to come into play and save fighters from themselves. We've seen a few times this year that some fighters have lost their lives in the ring. We've seen that. And unfortunately, that is what boxing does, where sometimes these things happen. And I feel like the rules of boxing is not protecting boxers enough. If you allow boxers, they will do whatever they want. But there has to be rules that protects boxers. And this is what Eubank Sr. is literally saying. The weight cut was really serious and it was draining. And we saw the implications of that, of him being in hospital and have to undergo all these medical tests and things like that. And this is a father talking from a father's perspective. This is a father sitting on the inside, having experienced all these things happening around his son, having experienced all these things himself, and he's voicing his concern about the implications of his son, but also someone like even Conor Benn coming up in weight and facing a much bigger fighter, what it could mean for him. For a lot of us, this is entertainment, right? It is entertainment, and we love it because the first fight was so good that we want to see a second fight. But for a family member, for a father that cares about his son, these are really, really serious things. And Simon Jordan's argument is all well and good because he's saying that he shouldn't have accepted the contract and he's fought at 160 before. Eubank Jr. should be fighting at 168 because he cannot make the weight anymore. He got fined. He couldn't make the weight. He missed the weight by 5 ounces or so. And it was clear that Eubank Jr. cannot make the weight anymore. And the fact that he's boiling himself all the way down to make 160 and having difficulties in making 160 shows that Eubank Jr. is really big for 160 and he should move up in weight. Now, of course, he's not going to listen to his father. He's going to do what he wants. But I understand from his father's perspective as to saying someone needs to save him from what he's doing. Boxing rules should save fighters from doing what they're doing because Simon is saying all of these things, but if someone had perished in a ring, Simon Jordan will be the same person on TalkSport talking about how boxing rules have to be adhered to and that we need to be careful what we do and that the British Board of Control need to take extra precautions and that this needs to happen and that needs to happen. Like we sit here and we enjoy these fights and we talk about the entertainment aspect of it. But what people don't understand is these are real people, real lives in the ring. And when the atrocities happen, that is when family members are left to deal with the problems that come their way, right? And people like Simon Jordan don't have to deal with it. So having an argument and saying that there is nothing wrong with Eubank Jr. fighting at 160, when indeed he's fighting restricted, is a problem. That is a problem. You know, Simon can go, look, it is wrong. He shouldn't have accepted it, but it is wrong. And we need stricter rules to prevent fighters from doing things that are detrimental to them. Then that would be an argument that I would think makes sense. It's like referees when they stop a fight early, right? For example, that Joseph Parker stoppage, and a lot of people had different arguments about it. But the way I look at these things is that the referee, Howard Foster, has a history of stopping fights early. But what do we know? Could it be that Howard Foster had been in a situation where he'd refereed a fight, he'd let the fight go on for too long and a fighter had been injured? Could that be? Have we done the research? Have we sort of understood that a little bit? I don't know. I've not done it, but I'm just saying that the reason why Howard Foster is compelled to stop fights maybe a little bit earlier is because maybe he's had an experience in the ring and has told himself that he's not going to make those mistakes again. So it is the same thing. We need referees. We need the Boxing Board of Control. We need boxing rules to stop fighters from doing things that is detrimental to their health, because fighters are always going to do that because the money is on the line, the glory is on the line, and they will always choose the money. And that's why we say in boxing in so many ways that you need to save fighters from yourself. Even sometimes corners have to throw in the towel because a fighter is not going to get out of the ring unless his corner saves him. And that's exactly the same thing that Eubank Sr. is saying right here, that the boxing rules must save fighters from themselves, especially when they get into these contracts and these rehydration clauses that are detrimental to their health. So Simon Jordan is wrong. He's not listening. He just wants to get his point across without having to listen and understand what Eubank Sr. is saying. What do you think? Have you seen this debate? What is your opinion? Do you agree with me that Simon Jordan is wrong and Eubank Sr. is right? Or do you think that Simon Jordan is right and Eubank Sr. is wrong? Get in the comment section and let me know what you think about this topic. My name is Bright. This is the Bright Show Podcast Boxing. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave your comments in the section below. I'll see you guys on the next one.